This is Morecambe Bay, an area stretching from Fleetwood in the south to Barrow and Walney Island in the north, with salt marsh along the shore and tides which sweep in and out and surge up the estuaries. In early summer 2023, we explored 120 miles right around the bay, with artists, photographers, filmmakers and local people walking and creatively mapping every mile of the coast. And the project culminated over August bank holiday weekend with 4 installation events, the first at Walney overlooking the Irish Sea, then Grange and Arnside on the Leven and Kent estuaries, and finally on the very busy promenade and beach at Morecambe. Bay Lines is part of a national project, Beach of Dreams, led by the arts organisation Kinetika and commissioned by the Morecambe Bay Partnership. The idea for Beach of Dreams comes from Ali Pretty, the artistic director whose art form includes long-distance walking and creating visual stories on silk with communities.
We were looking for creative ways to engage people really around cycling and walking around Morecambe Bay. So it's all part of a project we're running called Ways Around the Bay, which is to celebrate the amazing landscape and environment of Morecambe Bay and get it better known, but in a sustainable and active way. So getting people out of their cars and walking and cycling. And then we heard about Beach of Dreams. And it seemed to bring together so many different elements of our work. So it encouraged walking and gentle exploration of the coastline, but it also was about the environment and nature and heritage, and these are all themes within the work that we do. And it was a great opportunity to really showcase Morecambe Bay and engage the communities who live here to really feel proud of the place. The coastline here is really spectacular. It's highly protected for wildlife, so it's really important for nature. It's one of the most important places in the UK for bird life, and the wading birds particularly. It's a major pit stop for migrating birds, and great stories and a long heritage from prehistory right through to the more modern fishing heritage that's been here, and it's really something we should all be proud of.
The ebbing tide leaves miles and miles of sands exposed, which seems to almost link the towns and villages around the bay.
I find it just a fascinating area. We're very close to the Lake District where we stood right now, and a lot of people think of the hills and the mountains, but actually those hills and mountains have a coastline which is just stunningly beautiful. It's very unique. When the tide is out, you have just this huge expanse of sand. That means that we've got unique nature as well that goes alongside that. That it is a half-moon bay, and you can look from one side to the other all the time. So it's a very special place from a nature point of view, but to look at as well.
The current crossing is from Arnside along to Silverdale and then directly across the sands. So where I live, you can see people making the crossing every weekend in the summer when the tides are right, and it's an amazing sight.
I'm a fisherman, born and bred fisherman. I'm a fisherman of the bay. That's what my job is. That's how I earn my money. So I'm a fisherman. I'm out there nearly every day, either catching shrimps or setting nets or cockling and mussling, yeah. The King's Guide was originally set up by Henry VIII back in 1548. There was originally 4 guides to the bay, one at S Bank, one at Kent's Bank, one at Fleetwood and one at Ulverston. And our job is to guide people across the bay at any time. Right then, are we ready?
Good luck, guys.
When we're on a walk, we've got a lot of responsibility, so we've got to look after people. But when I'm on my own, it's great. In the middle of the night, out there, 8 miles on your own, it's perfect. Looking up at the stars.
It's a really unusual landscape. The way that it is a bay and the community kind of collects around the bay, and and it is connected by it, because even though the mileage and the distance between the communities is quite a lot, there's a sense of all being connected by the bay. And also because it's so dramatic and it's dangerous as well, it is very much part of people's lives, and it gives this place and this space an identity. Beach of Dreams is a national project exploring the coastline of the entire UK and Ireland, and it started in Lowestoft in 2021, and we did 500 miles from Lowestoft to Tilbury, and the aim is to gather stories of each mile of the coastline, what it is, what its heritage is, and then to look out to the horizon and imagine how we can look after it for the future.
And Baylines throws the focus on the 120 miles around Morecambe Bay.
We started with some gathering walks, so there was a lot of community engagement, getting people to know about the project, to invite them to come and walk in their sort of favourite landscapes. And so in June we walked for 6 days, covering the 120 miles, talking to people about their stories and then inviting them to go away and think about it, take photographs, draw and write and submit their content to us. And then the part that I was involved in particularly was to translate those photographs into drawings for these silk pennants.
I love hearing other people talk.
We took the submissions, we did some drawings, and then we came back here and we used the process of batik to batik those drawings like block prints onto the hand painted silk. And then we use natural dyes. So I worked with my colleague Leslie Robinson, who explored the different colours of the bay. We decided to use willow and then bracken and then Dyer's greenweed, which is very specific to here and gives you this amazing bright yellow which we see on the tops of the flags.
I set off with the gathering walks in a beautiful week in early June, talking to the people we met around the bay and gathering photos and stories as we went.
We had these beautiful views, and as we walked around the bay we could look back to the previous places we'd walked and look ahead to what we were going to be visiting the next day or the day after, so it was a really good experience.
For the June walks, we split Morecambe Bay into 6 distinct areas.
We're stood at the site of the old Rossall landmark, which is probably the true southern point of Morecambe Bay. The stumps behind us are the only visible remains of this quite historic structure that was in place for several hundred years.
And on day 1, Ali and the team of walkers headed east, 20-odd miles from Fleetwood in the direction of Lancaster.
I chose mile 1, which is in Fleetwood, and I went on the beginning of the walk, and then I went back later in the day with my camera and I took some new pictures of the landscape. I've been working as a documentary photographer for 30 years. I'm interested in stories and the landscape and people that work on the landscape. When I look at a landscape, I want to know who lives there, what they do, why they do it, how they do it, and it's all those kind of combination of things that go into my work.
Crossing the River Wyre, we walked to Pilling and met with marine pilot Andy Bradbury.
I'm a harbour pilot at Heysham and Glastondock. I went to primary school at Preesall, and my school actually backed up to the sea wall. And I remember them finishing off this sea wall, these sea defences. The trees have grown up quite a lot since then. Looking at the bay, the marsh has grown out a lot more. Over the years it seems to be more marshland really. The sea, it's very dynamic and it's always changing. I grew up on the Wyre, playing about on the River Wyre, watching the ships coming in and out. There's probably quite a bit more shipping in those days coming into Heysham and Glastondock.
Day 2 of the gathering walks on a blazing Sunday morning in June. Ali was joined by walkers to explore Sunderland Point and the coast up to Morecambe. We followed the coast north from Sunderland Point to Heysham, and at Morecambe we joined up with the Bay Beat Band from More Music to accompany us along the promenade. On On day 3 of the walks, we started off at Hess Bank.
And the Our Future Coast project is all about restoring and working with the natural environment to provide a better coastal defence. And so right now we're standing at a place called Red Bank Farm, or this is Red Bank Marsh, not far from sort of Hess Bank. And we are currently overlooking a really quite nice example of salt marsh. And salt marsh is a really interesting environment. Now, if you look at it from the position we're at now, it looks sort of like a field. You know, you think grassy, you know, it's vegetated. You wouldn't necessarily think coastal. But in actual fact, salt marshes are fantastic habitats. They're really good ecosystems. You know, we see a lot of birds landing, feeding, and actually nesting on the site. But they also provide a lot of benefits for us as humans as well. So they're a really good buffer, if you like, for waves and tidal forces. They help to absorb a lot of that wave energy and help to protect our coastal communities. And that's why there's that mixture of both human benefits and the ecological benefits that make them so vital to our sort of northwest coastlines, and why we're so interested in Our Future Coast, in restoring and helping to protect them and manage them for the future.
From Hess Bank, the path took us past Warton Crag and the RSPB reserve at Leighton Moss, and along the coast to Silverdale.
This is Jenny Brown's Point. It's a beauty spot. It's a lovely, lovely place, and it's got quite a few stories around it that I've researched over the years. Just a couple of things I'll do first. You walked alongside a little river that's called Quicksand Pool, named because it's dangerous and it separates us from Walton Marsh, and it flows out to the sea here. Everyone always asks who was Jenny Brown, so I'll just say a couple of words on Jenny Brown. Jenny Brown was born just the other side of these trees in Dyke House Farm. She was born as Jeanette Walney in the early 17th century. She had a daughter who she named Jenny as well, so there are 2 Jenny Browns here. She married a Brown. We have no idea why her name got stuck on this beautiful place, but there are theories and tales. And she rescued some children from the sea was one. She waved her lover off in his boat, never to see him again. She kept pigs here. She kept a house of ill repute here. Lots of local stories, probably none of them true.
Then the walk went on to Arnside and then to Storth, one of my favourite miles, and where I submitted my photos and story. On days 4 and 5, the walks continued along the north side of the Kent estuary to Grange over Sands and along to Cark. Just along the coast on a promenade in Grange over Sands, we met people passionate to restore the Grange Lido.
This mile's really special to me because I don't live very far away, I just live up the hill, and you know, this is our kind of forever home where we're putting down roots and staying, and I've got very involved with the Lido. It's been closed since 1993, but it is a 1930s Lido, and it is so beautiful. There's a whole group of us dedicated to bringing it back. I honestly believe it will help to regenerate not just Grange, but the whole of Morecambe Bay.
Every 10 minutes it changes. You know, people say, "You don't have a telly?" Well, why would you? We've got 2 walls, floor-to-ceiling glass, and every time you look out, something new is happening with the tide, with the birds, with the clouds, with whatever. It's such a dynamic environment to live in.
Our vision for Baylines and Beach of Dreams is to look at the gems along our broken foreshore, and that the fact there are so many people now being more aware of the coastline and their relationship to nature, and actually so many people doing projects with the future in mind. And this is, you know, a great example of that, and will inspire, as you've inspired many people before, I'm sure you're going to be inspiring more and more people every time they walk past it.
The last show we did was Long Line, the Carnival Opera, which was done in 2006 in a circus tent over there by Ulverston. That focused a lot on the history of the bay, and I mean, it's extraordinary history in terms of slavery, in terms of people could only cross the bay by
on
ship
foot.
or on foot
or in a horse and carriage. A wheel comes off or the horse goes lame, you know, you hitch up your crinoline and you run for your life. So we are called off-comers because we've come in off the sands, not incomers, we're off-comers.
Right. Oh,
yeah, I love that language thing of how it relates to the environment.
The walk continued from Ulverston Canal Foot, hugging the coastline along to the causeway to Roe Island. On the final day of the walk, we cross the bridge from Barrow.
South Walney is the only nature reserve in Cumbria where there's a colony of grey seals that are actually increasing. Being so close to the Irish Sea, it's really special. It's very elemental, and whenever you step outside, you've got the sky and the ocean, and there's a lot of wild swimming that you can do. Best sunsets I've ever seen in my life. I mean, even in the wintertime, it's quite special as well, to be fair. It does get very stormy, but we had some amazing frost where the entire reserve was just white.
As somebody who was raised here, and I was raised here during the 1970s as well, which was just such a wonderful time to be up at the beach. That's what we did. We spent our holidays here. During the school, we would come up to the beach, bring picnics. I just feel very much part of the island, very deep rooted. All of my family's here. Ancestrally, my family are from Walney Island and from Barrow and Fleetwood as well, so real part of the community. When I walked my mile, we started off at the ferry on Walney Island, and we went down to the very tip, down to the South Walney Nature Reserve, and then all the way along Bigger Bank here and right the way down to Ernsey Bay. And I chose this section down by Ernsey Bay. We come down ourselves. It's just a nice way to end a busy day. And I really wanted to capture the kind of things that my children loved when they were little, and they did rock pooling here, and also the houses that are run along the shoreline as well. They can look out on our coast every day. It's a place where people come to see the sunsets. It's a place where local photographers come down at the end of the night. That was my chosen area.
Back at the Walney Island Bridge, the walk, spanning 120 miles, came to an end.